program and its application in the MENA region, GTEx MENATEX, which comprises not only Egypt but also countries in the region like Morocco, Tunisia, or Jordan, but also in Central Asia and in Africa. And the program is financed by the governments of Switzerland through SECO and the Swedish government. So and I see that Mona from the Swiss embassy is also there. So good morning also to Mona. So as the sector has been heavily impacted by COVID-19, not only in Egypt, but worldwide, but also in Egypt, I think was crucial for us that we undertake this impact study, crucial for the sector, but also crucial for our program to see what we can actually do, what we cannot do. So we are very happy that Mahmoud and his colleagues from GERDSI has been undertaking the study for us. So he will present the findings, but we would also like to get feedbacks and views from you on this report and what we found out, and especially on 5 aspects. So hopefully we can get some feedback and discuss with you about whether these findings are representative of the entire export-oriented sector of Egypt, I mean export-oriented textiles and clothing sector of Egypt, whether the recommendations are appropriate to recover, what changes have happened after we conducted the quantitative analysis in late summer. So it's not a study that ended yesterday, but it ended sometime in August, I think. We tried to incorporate new aspects, but it's not 100% clear whether it covers the second wave, for example, that we are experiencing here in Europe.
Ended September.
So he said September, but the wave started in October or mid-October. I'm in confinement since October in France here. We also would like to know from you, what is your outlook for 2021? And when do you expect the business to go back to normal? Is there any visibility you have? And lastly, what can be done to grasp rising opportunities from development of this pandemic? There are also opportunities, and we think about digitization, we think about nearshoring of buyers from the US and in Europe especially, and also the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Are there opportunities you see that have been accelerating through the pandemic? So that's all I would like to say as an opening. Thank you for your interest in coming and listen to this very crucial topic. And hopefully we'll be a little more enlightened after the presentation. Thank you very much, and back to you, Yasmin.
Thank you, Matthias. I would like to give Mona, if you want to give us, Mona Bekzada from the Swiss Embassy, if you want to give us a quick note, please.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and thank you. And well, yes, I mean, I agree with Matthias that the study will give, I think, will give a lot of useful reflections for the project, and also the feedback from today, I think, will add on more to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mona. I think we can now start with our presentation. Unless anyone has a question about the project, a quick question about the project, about GTEx MENATEX, until Mr. Mahmoud is setting up the presentation on the screen. If you have any questions, and then we can start immediately with the presentation. To you, Mahmoud, can you please share your screen?
I'm trying.
Okay.
Is it shared right now?
Yes, you just need to put the presentation on full screen and.
Not quite sure how to do that, but
at the bottom of the PowerPoint, the normal PowerPoint, you can just on the right side. This is a PDF or PowerPoint.
No, it's a PowerPoint.
Okay, on the right side, the bottom, probably you will find a button for full screen.
Okay, we can start like this, and then we can.
Mahmoud, you can make it a slideshow. Just try.
Yes.
From the bottom.
Probably it's here.
Yes, you just go down.
To the right. To the right.
Two buttons.
No.
Another.
أيوة. Another one.
ممكن تدوس F5.
آخر واحدة.
Thank you guys for this. We've done this study over the course of 3 months during the summer. It ended in September, as Mr. Matthias already said, but I would like also to add that we have refreshed some of the info in the past couple of weeks due to the continuous dynamic situation that is in or globally regarding the COVID. First, I would like to review the methodology that we used in this study so far. We had, this study has 6 key deliverables. It has a survey and field research and reviewing the literature and writing a report, then this workshop that we are on today, number 4, and then we will write another report on recommendations and then a final report, hopefully within weeks, in the course of 2 weeks or something. In the field research section, we've done the survey. Gertzi surveyed, 32 completed, received 32 completed online questionnaires, and we've done 11 interviews one-on-one and 3 interviews with buying officers. Regarding the desk research that we have done in the literature, we have reviewed 35 documents, reports mainly, and articles from online and from publications. The reports are from the Big 5, PwC, McKinsey, BCG, KPMG, and Euromonitor, and others, among others. This literature review was very insightful, and we have it gave us a chance to have the idea about what is going on in the textile and apparel, the textile and clothing sector all over the world. Our third tool was the consultations. We had one consultation with a group discussion that was held online also maybe 6-7 weeks ago. And we've had, during that session, we've had online feedback from everyone. Many of the participants then are present today, I hope. And today we are having the second consultation. To summarize the research tools that we've used, we've reviewed 34 documents as literature. We've had 14 one-on-one interviews. We've had 32 online questionnaires filled, thanks to with the help of the expert councils, thanks to Ukraine and Russia. And also we've had, during our last workshop, we've had 8 feedbacks from different factories, from 8 factories on a group poll. Let me start with what our takeout from the literature. This slide is going to speak about the impact, the recovery models, the digital trends, and the work from home thing that we are all experiencing, or many of us are experiencing, especially our colleagues in Europe. In Egypt, we've had our share from working from home, but now I think that everyone can go to the office on not a regular basis, but on a scheduled basis. Euromonitor said that apparel is the second heaviest impacted industry next to travel, which is really was surprising to me, that this is the second heaviest impacted industry. McKinsey made 2 projections, made a base case scenario and a downside scenario for 2020 and 2021. In the base case scenario, McKinsey projected that Europe would be returning to 2019 levels, while the USA would be down by 20% by the end of 2021. While in the downside scenario, they projected that Europe would be at minus 30%, while the USA would be at minus 35%. I'm not sure if this is going to be correct, as from what we have read in reports, the projections were not very accurate, as there's a bit of uncertainty, a lot of uncertainty actually. Growing trend towards homeware and sportswear, especially with online growing trend towards casual homeware and sportswear emerges, especially with online sales, where consumers usually focus on basic products as opposed to fashion and luxury items. This is according to Gertie's study that was made back in May. The sportswear and the homeware are emerging as trendy goods to be bought by people. According to Business Insider, the consumer embracement of digital shopping directed brands not only to enhance their digital channels, but to become digital fortunaires or front runners. The retailers are seeking now to become digital front runners in order to meet the increasing demand in online purchasing. According to State of Fashion, the increased confidence in technology and online payment sectors are causing a change in consumer behavior away from traditional methods. This is in particular is true for Egypt also, as people didn't have confidence in buying online and in the delivery from online buying until recently. In 2020, there is a surge in online shopping in Egypt, and people are becoming more confident in using credit cards and using online payment methods. And they are having increased trust in properly timed deliveries of goods. I think many of us are experiencing, even at our houses, at our homes, we are seeing similar experiences. The work from home model also impacted consumer behavior, with more people buying homeware and casual apparel instead of formal and workwear. In our study, we have interviewed denim producers, and they have been impacted because not a lot of people are buying denim regularly as they used to. The trend is towards buying more homeware and casual apparel instead of the formal and workwear and especially denim. In this slide, we are talking about retail sales drops and bankruptcies and job losses. The drop in retail sales created a wave of bankruptcies for major retailers in the EU and US markets. This led that the key importers were defaulting on payments and on orders. This is according to the Financial Times. From the brands that went bankrupt, are Jose Bank, Neiman Marcus, Men's Warehouse, JCPenney. We have all seen those big retailers that are either resorting to Chapter 11 or going to bankruptcy directly. According to the Central Association of German Retail Trade, the non-food retailers in Germany are expected to lose $47 billion in sales till the end of 2020. And this lots of sales will lead to 50,000 retail jobs that can be lost as a result in Germany only. Then the second wave lockdown, which already started in Europe, and what impact would it have on our industry? We think that although the lockdown of the second wave might be longer than the first wave, but it's not going to be as hard impacting the industry as the first one, because factories and suppliers are already adapted to the lockdown of the first wave. We can see also that the manufacturers in the Far East are likely to witness a migration of orders to suppliers that are closer to importing markets. This could not only impact manufacturers of finished goods, but the entire supply chains, including intermediary textiles such as yarns, fabrics, and accessories, as they might also migrate closer to the new manufacturing base. In the meantime, buyers are demanding lower prices, and they are crushing the manufacturers, and also asking for shorter lead times and quick response on orders. And they are not putting long-term plans for supplying. So it's going to be really hard on manufacturers. Manufacturers are already operating on lower capacities and lower prices. They need to survive this period. It's going to be a hard period, the coming 2021. This is according to our studies and reviews. Now let's speak a little bit about the what happened in 2020 so far in terms of prices of the fibers, the cotton, the fibers, and the machinery. What happened in those markets? We're going to start speaking about the cotton. There was a projection that the cotton price would take a hit, which already happened. It really happened. This projection was happened already in March, April, maybe April. There was a dip in the price, and then the prices have been climbing ever since to pre-COVID prices now. I think in November now we are at 70 cents a pound of cotton, futures number 2 from Bloomberg, which is basically the same price that was the pre-COVID. The man-made fiber, the scenario was different. There were projections that the prices will increase due to the fact that there will be an increase in the loungewear and the comfort wear that uses man-made fibers. This was according to KPMG report, but actually this increase in prices, this massive increase in prices that was projected did not happen at all. And this, we believe, is due to that coupled when China, due to the fact that China returned to production early enough to compensate for the rise in demand, so the prices were not affected significantly. As we can see from the curve, it's a little bit lower, but it's in the same range. While if we are going to speak about machinery for textiles, not only for clothing, for the whole supply chain of textiles, we can see this curve shows the orders of machinery, of Italian textile machinery in the past 5 years. We can see clearly that in 2020, started 2020, there's a dip, there's a harsh dip going in demand of machines. Also, we can speculate that due to a lot of factories and manufacturers, due to the decrease in retail sales, closed down. This made an influx of second-hand machinery in the market that impacted the sales of new machinery. There's a lot of second-hand machinery offered online and offered in all the markets, all the markets as manufacturers, as factories are closing down. We have also checked with the one of the major manufacturers of spinning machines, Rieter. And Rieter said in the first 9 months of 2020, the Rieter Group achieved a cumulative order intake of 425 million Swiss francs, which is 19% less than what they had in 2019. And also, many of the main machinery manufacturers have conveyed to us that they have deferred delivery orders. If they have pre-COVID orders, they were asked by their customers to defer the delivery of those machines to 2021. Yasmin, am I going fast or shall I go a bit slower?
I think you're well. في حد عنده مشكلة في السرعة، محتاجين إن إحنا نبقى أسرع أبطأ، محتاجين نقف في أماكن معينة علشان لو حد عنده سؤال، ولا إحنا we're fine.
Yeah, I think for me, I think we're fine. مفيش مشكلة بالنسبة لي.
Okay, very good.
Please go ahead, Mahmoud.
Okay, so now the second tool that we've used is the surveys and the survey and the interviews and the polls that we have conducted. Let me share with you some of the findings, some of the major findings in numbers. We had 51% of the factories surveyed have made a salary cut somewhere or the other, somehow or the other, you know, they made a salary cut. 51% of the factories surveyed. 28% of those companies are still applying that salary cut till now. the rest are back to their normal. 25% reduction in salaries. 80% of the companies who made the salary cut have reduced wages by 25% at least. 80% of the factories surveyed who made the salary cut have reduced the wages by 25%. We've seen from the surveys also that 65% reduction in shifts during April, May, during the first wave lockdown. 65% of the factories have made reduction in shifts, varying from if they were working 2 shifts or making an overtime at the end of the day. They've canceled that. So 65% of the factories had reduction in shifts. 56% order cancellations. Half of all the companies have had at least 50% of their orders canceled. This is half the companies surveyed. Most companies have had to postpone deliveries and have suffered from up to 60 days delays in receiving their payments from their clients. 60% of the companies confirmed that their customers are back on placing new orders, but with less magnitude. While 13% of the factories, and this is especially important to you, Matthias, as you've said, confirmed they are receiving more orders than they used to. 15% of our factories have seen, and this is due to reasons that we will discuss later in the presentation. 34% of the factories confirmed that they have canceled orders on the raw material suppliers. But I would like also to mention that the cancellations were never on orders that were shipped. They were on orders that were not shipped from the supplier. 58% of factories say that raw materials supply lead time is now longer. They have had delays in delivering, in receiving the raw materials from the suppliers. Somebody wants to say something? I've heard.
Sure.
81% of companies surveyed are sourcing accessories locally. A lot of them have shifted from sourcing due to the lockdown. Have tried to source the accessories locally rather than importing them. 40% of the factories will focus more on the local market as a result of the COVID. When their customers disappeared for the 60 days period of lockdown in Europe, for the first 60 days, they had no other choice but to resort to focus more on the local market. Whether this will be successful or not is something that we will discuss later in our presentation. At least half of the companies have switched to medical textile products one way or the other. Factories have been producing gowns, have been producing at least masks. 50% of the factories have switched to producing masks. The factories surveyed. Half of the companies surveyed have indicated that they are interested to sell their products online. Whether they are ready for that or not, whether they have the accessibility, they have the means to sell online or not, but they've showed their interest to sell online. While 70% of the companies confirmed having liquidity problems due to COVID, 0% took loans. No one took loans due to the COVID. That was up till the beginning of September. 42% of the companies think that downsizing their operations can save their business for the coming year. They don't want to operate at their full size. They want to be more lean. So they think that downsizing can save their business. 42%. Half the factories surveyed had to shut down for a period of time during the pandemic. But the other half, let's look at the other half. The other half continued working during the lockdowns, one way or the other. You know, as a matter of fact, Egypt did not make a daytime lockdown during 2020, during the height of the pandemic. So, majority of the factories, 76% of them, of the surveyed factories, believe it will take more than 1 year to return to normal orders-wise, the normal workforce, not before July 2021. 40% is the average loss in revenues due to COVID-19. This was a major finding of the survey. بيقول حاجة ولا؟
استأذنكم يا جماعة لو في حد بس مش ميوتد، يعني بليز ما نفتحش المايك غير لو عندنا سؤال بعد إذنكم.
40% average loss in revenues due to COVID-19. The survey findings those survey findings are consistent with the recorded export figures of 29% January to August, thanks to the Export Council for this info. 30% loss of orders till end of 2020. 76% of the surveyed factories or the survey respondents foresee that they will lose 30% of their orders till the end of 2020. So those were the findings and numbers. Now let me go to findings from the one-on-one interviews. We've had 14 one-on-one interviews, 3 of which were with buying offices or agents for buyers. The other 11 were with key stakeholders or major factories of apparel in Egypt. And textiles also. We've had a couple of them in textiles, not in apparel. There are no official figures for job losses published, and it varied depending on the size of the company. We've found out that the large companies that have responded to the survey and interviews have retained nearly all their workers. They lost only 1%, 2% of the workers, which is the normal headcount rotation that they experience regularly. The small and medium companies were forced to let go of larger percentage of their workers in varying degrees. Some lost 10% of their workers, and others lost up to 50% of their workforce. Although official figures are not available for the job losses in the industry, Gertzi estimates that a total of about 10% of all workers in the apparel export industry have lost their jobs as a result of COVID-19. Now let's take it bit by bit, small companies, medium companies, and large companies. In the small companies, 25% of the companies surveyed closed down for 3 weeks, at least, as their orders were canceled or at best forced to delay delivery. They had to apply salary cuts of 20 to 25% for at least a month. But the good news is I've personally recently contacted the surveyed factory that had let off 50% of its workers in April, and they confirmed that since the beginning of October, they are rehiring and in full force. They have orders. They had already a school inside the factory for technical studies, and this school, of course, was closed as per the orders of the Ministry of Education during the pandemic. But now the school is open, and they are getting students back. They have state classes, and they are rehiring all their lost workforce and back in business. In the medium companies surveyed, 40% of the companies surveyed had to close down for 30 days. And they had to cut salaries during this period by at least 25%. The percentage of cutting salaries varied, but at least it was 25% for 30 days that they were closed down. In the large companies sector of the survey, 50% of the surveyed companies had to close down for a period ranging from 10 days to 45 days. And they had to cut salaries during that time from 10 to 25%. The uncertainty of the 2021 situation makes the common thought among big players is how to stay afloat in the year to come. Attempts to cut costs and maintain positive balance sheets, including cutting salaries, reducing shifts, reducing workforce, and putting their expansion plans on hold. I think that as time goes by, cutting salaries and reducing shifts and reducing workforce will be at minimum, but putting their expansion plans on hold is something that mainly that all of the companies have agreed on. All those who had expansion plans in the first place, they agreed to put it on hold for at least 2021 until visibility is there's a clearer picture about what's going to happen. Now let me show you some quotes from our interviews that we think are outstanding from various fields surveyed. In the shirt and denim sector, the quote says, the government needs to incentivize the upstream export supply chain to facilitate more local purchases from exporters to increase the exporters' competitiveness. Actually, this factory owner recommended that, major factory, by the way, he recommended that the export incentives be increased in value, percentage, to encourage exporters to be more competitive, to increase their competitiveness, the exporters' competitiveness. And another quote, he said, just to keep afloat during 2021, no plans for capital investments. He just wants to keep afloat during 2021. The factory is maybe more than 4,000 workers. In the field of medical textiles, we've interviewed a couple of factories. According to the law, the quote says, according to the law, we forced 40% of the personnel to stay home during the crisis for 2 months at 50% of their salaries. And this was new to me, that the labor law allows factories to send 40% of the personnel home with 50% of the salary. I think many factories didn't know about this fact, but this one did and made use of it. Another quote, he said, customers disappeared for 2 months. Another quote, he said, we developed special fabrics for masks and have tremendous amount of orders since June. This factory has a strong R&D section, and they have developed a fabric for masks when people were in lockdown and factories were closed. They were focused in the labs to develop new raw materials, new raw material that was accepted and acknowledged, accredited also by international bodies to be used as masks, as raw materials for masks. And now they have a lot of orders for the local market and for export. Fabric. When asked about resorting to local suppliers, the factory said it's impossible to resort to local suppliers instead of foreign in the medical textiles field. He said also that Walmart changed the payment terms on special fabrics from 1 week to 45 days. So this is a direct clue that retailers are pushing for, if not for lower prices, but also for, not only for lower prices, but also for delayed payments. He believes 2021 for garments in Egypt will be a bad year with very weak buying power. The export of garment business, there is a 50-50 chance for 2021. This guy believes that for the local market apparel, for the apparel local market, the buying power will be weak, as people have all been impacted by the COVID, and their priorities in spending, their spending priorities won't be directed at buying apparel locally in Egypt. For the export of garments, he believes that there is a 50-50 chance for 2021. A knitted and woven garments sector survey report says, April and May sales barely covered wages. Real loss took place already. We are hopeful to finish the year as with the current rate without losing further sales. We don't have branded product produced all the time to focus on B2C now. There was a question in the survey if the factories would like to focus on B2C instead of B2B. And this quote highlights that if factories don't have their own branded products, they cannot focus on B2C. Another quote, we have always considered new and different markets, but now we don't need to try someone new. We'd rather try higher level customers in the same markets. This was, the question was if they would like to venture into new markets like the African markets and such. And this guy said, we have always considered new and different markets, but now we don't need to try someone new. It's not, he thinks that it's not the right time to try someone new. In the field of dye housing, the quote says, we encourage personnel to use their annual leaves to decrease the number of employees coming to work to the minimum. When this gentleman was asked about banks, and he said banks are not cooperative, they are in another dimension, and I'm quoting. In the field of homeware, the quote says, export councils should coordinate more between big exporters and small factories to utilize their capacity and help them leverage their quality standards and standard operating procedures. There was a Versatile factory also interviewed. They produce many products in the apparel business. And the quote says, one of our customers went Chapter 11, which is Nygaard. He specified that Nygaard went Chapter 11, and he was one of his major customers. This factory also estimated 50% loss of orders by the end of 2020. This was one of the factories that were on the high sides in their applications. In our interview with a brand sourcing office, there were some quotes. The quote says, 40% of orders were deferred delivery. 40% of the orders that were placed in Egypt by this brand sourcing office were deferred delivery. They postponed the delivery of those orders. Another quote, they are placing new orders, but of a much less magnitude. Some factories with 80% reduction and some with 30% reduction, depending on the product. If it's a woven garment, they said it's 80% reduction. If it's knitted, it was 30%. There was also this bright side quote from this brand sourcing office that says, we plan to move more orders to Egypt out of other countries. And this is where the chances for Egypt are. In the knitted and woven garments, major knitted and woven garments manufacturers said, eliminating government bureaucracy, especially in customs and ports, sea and air, to speed up procedures to serve exports. This is what we think that very important to be done by the government. We only want utilities at international rate, not less, not more. This is a vertically integrated factory, and of course they have a dye house, and the dye house is energy intensive, and they want the utilities at international rate. He also said, which is a very interesting quote, he said, some parents of workers were worried about their sons and daughters and forced them to quit the jobs. They didn't want to get rid of any workers, but he said that the parents of the young men and women working there were worried from the pandemic, and they forced their sons and daughters to stay home. He says also that educating people, especially workers, and increasing their awareness about the importance of exports is crucial. Another quote, we had to close in the factory, the in-factory technical school as per the government orders. In another interview with the sourcing office, the gentleman said, the EU and USA represent 70% of the global garments market. They are our first option, as they are our first option in markets-wise. He also said that China's policy to reallocate its resources to more advanced technology industries will leave a gap in its internal local market needs of garments. This gap will be filled by neighboring garment-producing countries. Same with India. And he also said, in general, producers should be upgrading the product range all the time towards higher value products. But now there is a good opportunity for Egyptian garment manufacturers to use personal protective equipment from masks to gowns. So in spite of the fact that he thinks that upgrading the product should be a continuous procedure in the factories, but he sees a very good opportunity now for Egyptian garment manufacturers to get into the personal protective equipment field, like masks and protective gowns and coveralls, etc. Well, that was the survey findings. Now we're back to the desk research, but with the export analysis and the impact on Egypt. According to the Export Council data we received, Egypt is down by 23% till August, compared to from January to August 2020 compared to January to August 2019 in the export of textile products as a whole. We can see from this table that the bad month were April and May was minus 64% and minus 56% consecutively. A sharp decline in its exports, in Egypt's exports. We've tried to look at Egypt versus other countries, other exporting countries, major exporting countries of garments, HS codes 61 and 62 woven and knitted garments, like Vietnam and Jordan and Turkey, who are exporting to our markets, which are the US and EU. So Egypt, Vietnam, and Jordan saw a dip in their exports to the US in the first 9 months of 2020. We are comparing here January to September 2019 versus January to September 2020. So we can see that Egypt 2020 to 2019, same period, is minus 28% in woven and knitted garments, while Vietnam minus only 10%. And Jordan is minus 20%, and Turkey, and this is the really interesting figure. Turkey is plus 21%, January to September. So we will talk about this figure, the plus 21, later in this presentation. Of all the 4 countries, Egypt was the hardest hit, and this is most likely due to Egypt being traditionally positioned as a supplier of longer lead times, offering lower prices over flexibility. In this slide, we are going to talk about garment exports to the EU 2019 versus 2020, also the same period, February to July. We are comparing Egypt, Turkey, and Vietnam. Egypt lost 30% of its exports to the EU 2020 to 2019, while Turkey to the EU is minus 22%, and Vietnam to the EU is minus 14%. So overall, Egypt has been consistent with the 30% loss, whether to the EU or to the USA. While if we go back to this slide, Turkey to the USA is increased by 21%, which means that although they lost a good portion of their exports to the EU, but they have compensated by increasing their exports to the USA markets. Now, let me give you an idea about the impact on Egypt 2020, 2021, and the projections for 2021 and 2022 garment exports. So in 2020, we are going to see exports go down between 25 and 30%, or around from one, it's going to be in total $1.2 billion to $1.28 billion, compared to 2019, which was $1.7 billion. For 2021, we think that Egypt would maintain the same as 2020, was minus 25 or 30%, or maybe a slight increase to reach 80 to 90% from its pre-COVID numbers. So putting the figure at $1.4, $1.5 billion at best. And with
Mahmoud?
Yes.
I'm sorry for interruption, but I have a comment here. Things have changed until October. The apparel the apparel exports figure, is now minus 19%.
So we are talking exports to the world or exports to EU, USA?
To the world, Egypt to the world.
So this is the table that we have got from your Export Council. It was January to August. And January to August was minus 23%. Now you're telling me that
January to October is now minus 19%.
That's very good. That's very good.
And so things is picking up a little bit.
Very good.
I think this would affect your projection for 2020. So if you want to take this into consideration.
Of course we will. I would like to also to remind you that this was until this was done. The figures were done until August.
Yes, I understand.
The situation
I mainly meant to comment here for the projected to end 2020. And you're mentioning it's 25 to 30%. I think it will be less than this. So
can you give me a figure? Can you give me a figure? Projection?
I think 20%.
Very good. Very good.
I think so. I'm not sure it's a projection at the end of the day, but I think 20% would be good.
Can you please share with us the latest export figures and export analysis, if possible, that your council publishes, so we can also incorporate with the study?
Okay.
And update the study with it?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That would be appreciated.
Thank you.
What do you think for 2021, Shireen? I would like also to listen to your...
according to our last memo to the minister, we've seen that the exports will continue to decrease through Q1. Okay. And starting Q2 2021, we are looking forward to a very a minimum increase or a little increase. And then it will pick up starting Q3 and 4. So I can share with you our projections for 2021.
Please, I wish this would be true. Yes, let's hope.
But I think we are thinking like a 10 to 12% increase on 2020 figures.
Yes. So 10 to 12% will still be less than 2019 figures.
Definitely,
okay.
Definitely.
So I think we are in line. We are just the differences between the 25 to 30% projection for 2020, that you presume it would be around 20%.
I think so.
Thank you very much for...
you're welcome.
Depending on Egypt's ability to resolve some of its export and investment challenges, as well as improve its stability to offer shorter lead times, exports in 2022 and beyond could see a sharp increase, as can be seen in Turkey's experience with the US. I would like to stop at this Turkey's experience and Turkey figures, because they've had this experience with the US. They've increased during the COVID, during the height of the pandemic, they increased by 20% their exports to the United States. This was due to its ability to attract some of the relocating business from Asia. we safely can say that the business is migrating from Asia towards near shores. And Turkey took advantage of this and increased its exports to the United States by more than 20% during the bad times. So we think that Egypt can see a sharp increase in 2022, provided that they can resolve some of the export and incentive challenges. Although the short-term future will carry some challenges for Egyptian exporters, the medium term will offer some growth opportunities as European and American retailers look closer to home for their sourcing. We have divided the impact for Egypt into two sections: short-term, 1 to 2 years impact, and medium-term, what we can expect, what we will see, what we project for this two different periods. On the short term, Egypt can expect the following: a continuation of the lower levels of demand for export products during 2021, with a potential return to 2019 levels by the end of the year. So I think, Shireen, we are projecting the same. We are projecting that by the end of the year 2021, we can see figures coming closer to our pre-COVID figures of 2019.
Mahmoud, before we complete this part, we have a comment on the chat box from Mr. Mahmoud Rujdi from Expoling. He has an experience he wants to share about a visit he've made to Turkey. So maybe we can listen to him and then
Sure. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing. I'm having the full screen on the presentation as you asked, so I'm not seeing the messages.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me all?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Yasmin. First of all, for the invitation. Thank you, Mr. Mahmoud Sabbah, for the very valuable information you are sharing. It's really very valuable to share this information together. And really, it's very passionate for me working in the ready-made garment sector for 9 years in the past. So it's really a good thing. Let me just share it with you. In 2013, I visited Turkey with a delegation from the Ministry of Industry, and particularly from the quiz division, to visit factories practicing the quiz agreement from Turkey as well. And during this visit, we had a tour for 1 day in one of the biggest ready-made garments factories in Turkey, which has almost 4 or 5 big giant manufacturing plants all over Turkey. They are agents for the denim factory, US denim factory. I think it was Levi's. And they were agents for Levi's for the whole of Europe. The Turkish experience in the ready-made garments, it goes back for years now. Now, Turkey, I believe, as I remember, they are producers of denim fabric. They are producers of accessories. And they have their own research and development for the jeans, not only as manufacturing, but also as accessories. So any importer or any buyer who wants to go and buy denims or any clothes from Turkey, he goes in to choose the fabric, which is local made. He chooses the accessories, which is local made. The designs, they have designs not only developed by Levi's, but also developed by the Turkish teams of Levi's in Turkey. They manage the whole supply chain. So in order for Egypt, what I believe is that in order for Egypt to be like Turkey and to witness a growth in hard times, I think that we need to have the whole supply chain from the beginning, from the fabrics up to the accessories, to the fashion, to the designs, this should be all integrated in-house. Of course, this will take a lot of time, a lot of effort, but we need to start. This is all. Thank you very much for giving me the time for this intervention.
Thank you for the intervention, Mr. Rushdie, and we are in agreement.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just need to add something, if you allow me, in regards to Turkey, and especially within the 2020 years. It's not only about they do have all the capacities and they do have the varieties of the old textile supply chain, but they have made something to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. They just got very lower prices than they used to sell even before the COVID-19. I think their philosophy was just to sell and to maintain a good margin of income better than bigger losses, especially financially. And let's not forget about their currency. So economical wise, and I'm not an economist, but I believe that there are many factors affecting their increase of export to the US or even to Europe, because they play very well with their prices, and of course the incentives and the strong incentive scheme they have since so many years ago is enabling them to do so.
Yes.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for this this valuable information also, and it's very valid. But in the end, they are playing their cards right, whether it's a devaluation, whether they are losing on, maybe they are losing, but they are also maintaining a healthy cash flow for 2020. In the end, the figure, their export figure to the United States during the pandemic increased by more than 20%. Even if we can continue. For the medium term, we believe the impact for Egypt, the medium term carries brighter prospects for Egypt. As markets stabilize past the peak of the pandemic, demand will start climbing back gradually to pre-COVID-19 levels. Moreover, European and American buyers will start shifting more of their sourcing from Asia to closer manufacturing destinations, with Egypt being in a unique position to capture some of that relocating business. Additionally, Asian manufacturers will start looking to relocate their factories closer to consumer markets, to consuming markets. Again, putting Egypt as one of the leading potentials for attracting FDI in the sector. We have seen, I've personally seen last January, pre to COVID, a Chinese company acquiring one of the major apparel manufacturers in Egypt. And a lot of relocation from, Asian manufacturers are relocating their factories to near the United States. And Egypt is, with its position, geographical position, closer to Europe, close to Europe and closer to the United States than China, we can attract a lot of FDIs if we have the means. If we have the means and the investment incentives, and if we can create a conductive environment for FDIs, such as cutting red tape, making available industrial land, training labor, short and long-term financing, the country can see its export of textiles. Pardon? Okay. The country can see its export of textile and apparel products increase substantially. After the survey was done and the study was done and the research was done, we came to 4 key conclusions. The first conclusion is the industry is operating in a time of uncertainty. In absence of a clear end to the pandemic, even, now we are in wave 2, and I've read an article recently about the UK. The cabinet of the UK was saying that if they don't apply strict measures during strict lockdown measures during wave 2, maybe after Christmas, God forbids, they may see a wave 3. So with this level of uncertainty about this pandemic, companies and countries have to be prepared for a time for this time of uncertainty. There's no visibility, nearly no visibility. So this is the first conclusion: is the industry is operating in a time of uncertainty. Second conclusion is that demand is down and will stay down for some time. The best case scenarios project a return to 2019 levels by at least the end of 2021. And this is on par with what Shireen Hosni just said. By the end of 2021, maybe we can see figures going back to pre-COVID levels. Companies have to plan their finances accordingly. You don't need the companies need really to plan their finances accordingly, according to these projections. The third conclusion is that consumers are changing, and manufacturers and retailers alike need to do the same. The buying habits are changing. Consumers are switching more to online retail. This is a fact that even in our homes we are seeing clearly. Kids are now with less travel. Even if we are going to talk about the sector of consumers that used to travel and buy their clothing from abroad, this is no longer as easy. And a lot of buyers in Egypt even are switching to online models. All over the world also are switching to online retail and are choosing more basic products. This will require Egyptian garment manufacturers to establish innovative models and recognize their supply chains. Fourth conclusion is shorter lead times are taking over. In the absence of reliable projections, shorter lead times, flexible manufacturing, and lower stocks are becoming the norm. Retailers will shift their production to suppliers that are closer to the market and are capable of meeting faster development cycles. From our interviews with the manufacturers who used to have long programs with buyers, 6 months orders, 6 months ahead orders, they can plan. Now this is no longer the case. They are receiving orders, but they are receiving orders for next month. They are receiving orders for the next 6 weeks, and they have to figure out the supply chain from sourcing raw materials to fit into this very short and competitive lead time. So shorter lead times, they are taking over. And whoever is in, for example, the denim manufacturers in Egypt, which is a longer cycle manufacturing operation, they need to work out how they will shorten their lead time. Of course, if we have more denim fabric suppliers locally, this would greatly help, as Mr. Rushdie was saying. Now let me during our research, we found many governmental decrees that had an effect on the industry during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic during the year. Let me show you some of those decrees and the respective effect on the textile and clothing sector. Those are the most important, I think, personally, I think they were the most important decrees taken by the government. Number one is reducing interest rates by 3%, setting maximum limit for daily withdrawals and deposits, and canceling blacklists for institutional clients and negative lists for clients who already obtained loans. This was the decree, and its effect should be good, as many companies couldn't apply for loans from the textile and apparel sector as they were previously enlisted in the negative lists. A lot of companies, a lot of manufacturers in Egypt during the period after the 2011 revolution stumbled with the banks and were put on the negative lists. So this decree should remove their names from the negative lists, thus allowing them to apply for loans without being rejected. The Second decree is to allocate £1 billion, Egyptian pounds, for exporters' dues before June 2020 in the framework of the export rebate program. The effect of this decree is good effect, but still there is a considerable backlog in the export rebate program. I've been following up the export rebate program in the past few months, and the government is paying back its dues, but at different rates to big companies and small and medium companies. But still there is a backlog, as I understand. Please, Shireen, correct me if I'm wrong, Shireen or Rasha.
Actually, they're paying all the backlog until June 2020. So
all companies or for
everyone? For everyone that wants to benefit from this initiative. Because this initiative is the company will take 85%.
Yeah, 15% discount.
Yeah, and discount 15%. 85% of the total export subsidy for the company.
Yeah, but there were many decrees during the past months regarding this program. They changed many times, I believe.
Yes, but it's not decrees. It's the different initiative, like the investment initiative, the 85% initiative, the small and medium enterprises initiative. So it's just different ways of paying the subsidy. Not even different programs, same figures, same percentages, same everything, but it's just different ways. And this is the 85% is considered the last one, the last initiative, and it's open to everyone who wants to benefit from it.
So if the government owes my factory 10 million pounds, I go to this initiative and agree to take 8.5 million instead of the 10 million, but I take them at once.
Yes, exactly.
Covering my backlog till June.
Yes.
So this is perfect. This is very good.
Good.
Number 3, reducing the price of natural gas to $4.5 per million BTUs. The effect of this reduction from, I think it was $5 per million BTUs before that. So it's like a 10% reduction in the natural gas price. And the effect should be a very good effect on the supply chain of the textile and clothing sector, as it represents around 10% reduction in the price. But still far from the international price, bearing in mind that the price of natural gas increased at least 5-fold since 2014. So we believe that this decree of decreasing 10% of the price of natural gas is very good, and it will have a good effect on the textile and clothing sector, but still it's far from the international price. And we need to recall that the price of natural gas since 2014 increased 5-fold. The decree number 4 is reducing electricity prices by 10 piastres for electricity-intensive industries and fixing electricity prices for the rest of the industries for a period of 3 to 5 years. And the effect of that decree is a moderate effect, as the prices of electricity for industry also have been increased several times in the past few years. It's good, but it still was a moderate effect, not a major effect, because we've seen increases in the past few years many times. So now, and this is where I need all the attendees' feedback on the recommendations. We have reached. Please.
Before we start with the recommendations, we have a comment in the chat box. I know that you're not following the chat box, so من أستاذ هاني الراوي بيقول إن الإجراءات الحكومية والبنك المركزي الإجراءات بتاعتهم لم تؤثر على الواقع كثيرا. فهو من شركة الوليد يونيفورم، فهو بيتكلم من ناحية الشركة. هذا كان كومنت على اللي حضرتك كنت بتقوله، فحبيت إن أنا بس أشاركه عشان عارفة إنك مش شايف.
إجراءات البنك المركزي لم تؤثر على إيه؟ لم تؤثر كثيرا.
الإجراءات الحكومية والبنك المركزي لم تؤثر على الواقع كثيرا.
صباح الخير.
صباح الفل. يعني
معلش أنا بس في نقطة عايز أوضحها. الكلام اللي بيتقال بتاع البنك المركزي والإجراءات الحكومية اللي بتتخذ بيظل في الآخر يعني كل بنك له الاختيار إن هو يقبل أو يرفض إن هو يشتغل بالطريقة دي. فمثلا في أي قطاع اتأثر زي قطاع الملابس والمنسوجات، الناس اللي بتصدر، القطاع السياحي، البنوك هي فعلا وقفت تحصيل الأقساط لمدة 6 شهور، لكن هي لسه بتعد فوائد بنسب عالية جدا. البنك المركزي قال إن إحنا هندعم الاقتصاد، وإن إحنا الناس اللي كانت موجودة على قوائم الحظر من إن هي تشتغل أو تاخد ائتمانات جديدة إن إحنا هنشيلها وممكن يتقدموا للبنوك. أنا في ناس كتير جدا مصانع أعرفها، مصانع ملابس اتقدمت لبنوك وتم رفضها. ليه؟ لأن البنوك نفسها قالت لا، إحنا في فترة كورونا الاقتصاد العالمي كله واقف، فأنت لما تيجي تقدم وتاخد 2 مليون أو 3 مليون، أنت مش هتقدر إن أنت هتدفعهم إزاي؟ أنت ما بتبيعش وما بتحصلش، وحتى ميزانياتك السنين اللي فاتت لا تعبر عن حاجة في الفترة اللي جاية. زي ما حضرتك بتقول احنا الوضع مبهم جدا، يعني ما فيش حد عارف الموضوع هيخلص امتى. فالكلام اللي بيتقال بالنسبة للحكومة أو البنك المركزي، هي الإجراءات فعلا حقيقية بتتاخد، لكن هل البنوك مثلا بتنفذ؟ هل البنوك بتدعم المصانع، بتدعم الناس اللي بتصدر علشان تعدي فترة الأزمة دي؟ الكلام ده كله مش حقيقي. مفيش ولا بنك النهارده بيقدر يخاطر. يعني ممكن حضرتك لو انت عايز تشتري حاجة شخصية ليك، لو انت عايز تشتري عربية مثلا، اسهل بكتير جدا من اني مصنع بيصدر ان هو يروح ياخد 2 او 3 مليون من بنك. الكلام ده على ارض الواقع ما بيحصلش.
انا متفق تماما.
بس فاحنا خد بالك في مجال صناعه الملابس عموما يعني، واعتقد يعني في كل المجالات التانيه احنا بنعاني جدا ان احنا نعدي الازمه ونعدي لوحدنا. يعني الحكومه، بص كل الكلام اللي بيتقال في الاعلام، الكلام ده لا، الحكومه ضاغطه بكل قوتها من بعد شهر 8، سواء في تحصيل فلوس للضرائب او للكهرباء او للتامينات. كل الحاجات الحكوميه وقفت من شهر 3 لشهر 5، فعلا ما بتحصلش. من شهر 3 لشهر 8 عفوا، ما بتحصلش حاجه. من بعد شهر 8 لا، كله ضاغط جامد جدا، كله عايز يحصل اي فلوس، وما عندهمش مشكله انت شغال مش شغال، بتصدى واقف، العمال بتوعك انت بتدفع لهم، بتجيب فلوس ازاي، ما يهمهمش الكلام ده. فاحنا بس خلينا يعني نحط النقطه دي في مكانها، علشان نقول يعني نسيب شويه معلش كلام الاعلام وكلام الجرايد، ونتكلم على الواقع اللي بيحصل في مصر هنا. بس يعني ده
احنا مش
تعليق
واخدين بس كلام
لكلام.
الاعلام وكلام الجرايد، احنا واخدين برضو يعني القرارات من على ارض الواقع ومن الناس. بس كلام حضرتك صحيح لأبعد الحدود. المصانع بتواجه صعوبات في انها تاخد قروض من البنوك. اعتقد انا شخصيا اعتقد ان من ادوات البنك المركزي ان هو يرغم البنوك على تخصيص نسبة او نسب محددة من فلوسها للاستثمار الصناعي. ده مش حاصل. البنوك بتشتغل، سواء البنوك بتفضل انها تشتغل في تمويل القروض الشخصيه وكروت الائتمان وخلافه، من اللي بيسموه ريتيل بانكينج، وهو اسهل بكتير جدا من تمويل الصناعه. فانا متفق مع سيادتك تماما. خلينا نشوف، نرجع للريكومنديشنز اللي احنا حاطينها.
اتفضل يا فندم. شكرا.
وللحكومه، استاذنك انا اولا بشكرك على المداخله.
شكرا يا فندم. شكرا.
محمود، أنا عندي one comment قبل recommendation.
Please.
أنا مش عارفة you've mentioned it ولا لأ. payment terms.
payment terms بتاعت الزباين.
Yes. يعني was it
We've
mentioned?
No, we did mention it by one. It was quoted from one of the manufacturers that Walmart was used to pay him 1 week after receiving the shipment, and they've wanted to extend this period of payment to 45 days.
Okay, this is another story, but the normal or the norm it was 45 days and sometimes up to 90 days. Now
naturally it's extended. Yeah, 120.
Yes, 120. So
180. I've heard 180
yes.
from buyers. Yes,
and definitely the lower prices. And so I believe these 2 points affect and will continue affecting the business during 2021.
Yes, and this is why we said that manufacturers need to plan their finances according to the those two major factors: lower prices, shorter lead times, and longer payment terms. I will add longer payment terms.
Okay, great.
Mahmoud, before we move to the recommendations, would you like to give the floor to the attendees if anyone has a question or a comment on the last section?
Sure. But I'm not seeing the chat box. I will rely on you to
okay.
Sorry.
There is nothing on the chat box, but I thought maybe because other people had some comments, so I thought maybe other people want to jump in with a question or something. I would like also to ask Dr. Abir Saadi, the Minister Advisor for Funding and Developmental Projects, if you have a comment that you want to share with us in this section, or you prefer to wait until the recommendations. دكتورة عبير حضرتك لسه معانا؟ I think هي المفروض دكتورة عبير معانا بس غالبا مش سامعين. طيب محمود, please go ahead and then we.
Yes, Yasmin.
Please دكتورة عبير اتفضلي.
I'm sorry, I'm in the car.
It's okay. It's okay. I was just asking if you have any comments on the last section, because we were discussing this area of the degrees from the government. So maybe you have something to add in this area.
For the moment, I don't have any comments about the study, but I found that the study is very important to such an important sector, to Egypt. And especially to the initiative of the industrial clusters. So it's really needed to share all the recommendations and the finding of the study with the ministry in order to benefit from this in our initiatives with the industry clusters.
Indeed, we will share. Indeed.
Sure, Dr. Abir, we will do that. Okay, so let's go ahead. Okay, so let's go ahead with the recommendation. Please, Mahmoud.
Okay, could we start with the recommendations, Yasmin?
Yes, please.
So we have divided our recommendations. We have classified our recommendations into three sections. Section 1 is recommendations for the government and policymakers. Section 2 would be recommendations for the business support organizations. And Section 3 is the recommendations for the manufacturers. And also the recommendations are classified short-term, medium-term, and long-term. So our first set of recommendations are for the government and policymakers. Recommendation number one is, and this is combined from Gertzi and from the feedback that we had from the surveys and the interviews, all of the study. Recommendation number one is the export incentive payment, which is a very short-term recommendation. And as Ms. Shireen, I think this recommendation is no longer valid right now because the government has made many initiatives. As we are enlightened by Shireen, they are now paying the backlog up to June 2020. Second recommendation, also about the export incentives, but it is a recommendation to increase the percentage of the export incentive. this is a medium-term recommendation. We believe that whatever the allocated budget would be to pay for this incentive increase, it will be much less than the reward that Egypt will have from its export figures if the competitiveness of the exporters is leveraged due to this incentive increase. Our third recommendation is, and this will also highlight about the Central Bank of Egypt and the banks, to make soft loans for investments in the industry. And when we say soft loans, we are not talking only about the interest rates. We are talking about the interest rates and short, medium, and long-term loans, because this industry would benefit from long-term and medium-term loans more than short-term loans during the COVID. Recommendation number 4 is to bring utility costs to international rates. This is a long-term recommendation, but bringing utility costs to international rates for this industry, as I understand my knowledge about other industries, that those industries that are, for example, the natural gas, energy intensive consumption of natural gas in the industry for ceramics, for fertilizers, and for steel, the government can keep the rate as it is. The government can give different rates to different industries. The textile and apparel industry, the textile and clothing industry needs the utility costs to be at international rates. Recommendation number 5 is to defer the payment of dues. And when we say defer the payment of dues, we are not talking about from March to August, and then after that, they are, as per the gentleman said, they are coming back hard to collect their dues. We need a deferred payment of dues plan for 2020 and 2021, and still would be considered short term, but to lift a little bit of the burden on, placed on the shoulders of the manufacturers during this pandemic. Recommendation number 6 would be the reimbursement of delayed VAT rebates. From our interviews, we understood that collecting back the VAT taxes, the VAT values for exporters takes a long time, as the export incentive. I know I would like also Ms. Shireen and Ms. Rasha to correct me on this reimbursement of VAT. Does it take a long time as per our feedback?
Yes, it used to usually take a long time, but let me tell you, this is not something is related to the COVID-19 crisis, because it has to be like this since maybe 10 years ago. So of course it will be a good impact on the companies to have it faster. But this one is not related to the crisis. It's related to the overall situation of the companies and their time frame of getting their subsidies or VAT.
Yes, of course, they are not only related to the COVID, but they are related to the industry in general. And many of the recommendations will be not only related to COVID, but will be related to the industry in general. What is going to benefit?
If that's so, let me tell you that we have sent those recommendations like 25 times over the past 3 years. That's why I'm just highlighting that we need to be a little bit more focused of our objective first place. Anyway, back to the main question. Does it take long time? Yes, it takes long time. One thing to add in regards to the recommendations, I don't know if you made some recommendations for the companies themselves, because
yes, we did. We are coming. We have 3 sections: one for policymakers and government, one for the manufacturers, and one for the business support organizations.
That's perfect. Okay, I'll wait. Thank you, Mahmoud.
No problem. Thank you. So I would like to tell you that if we are going if the manufacturers are going to benefit from recommendations that are directly related to the COVID-19, other, they will also benefit from those recommendations in normal times.
Yes, sure. There is no problem then.
So recommendation number 7 is reconsidering, and this is also applies for the normal times, reconsidering the temporary admission and drawback system. This is a long-term recommendation, but this temporary admission and drawback system needs fixing.
Mahmoud, I would like to add one point here. We have 2 laws, the taxes laws and the customs laws that are already issued during October and November.
Yes.
And they will have an impact on the factories and on the overall industries, not only the apparel and textile. And regarding the drawback, it has been clearly solved or organized in the customs law.
This is what I'm hearing.
Whether or not it's good for the manufacturers or not, but it is already addressed.
Yes, but this is not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that they've increased the
yes. We have a lot of whether or not in the favor of the factories. We already sent memos regarding these 2 laws because they will have a negative impact or an impact in a way or another. But I mean, it needs to be addressed. What do you think?
Yes, of course, and this is why we have made this recommendation number 7 to reconsider. I believe personally that if Egypt is to seize the opportunity from nearshoring or reallocating the business from Asia to the Middle East or Turkey or Jordan, if we need to get a chunk of this pie, we need to reconsider the temporary admission and drawback systems in favor of the factories.
Mm-hmm. Okay, may I add just recommendation number 8, since we are advising the policy. I believe that we need to add something related to the trade agreement, especially with the UK, since they are out of the EU after Brexit. I know that the government is working on it, but we need to highlight that we need it urgently and we need to finalize it the sooner that we can. Another thing that we have received some recommendations before the COVID from the manufacturers regarding having an agreement with some Asian countries and the Eastern, I think the Eastern Asian countries and the Russia and Belarus countries. So maybe I can send you those recommendations for the countries that manufacturer requested to have a trade agreement with. So we can just add it.
Thank you very much. Highly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're most welcome.
Mahmoud, we have a raised hand from Dr. Abir Sadi. Dr. Abir, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you, Mahmoud, for this important presentation and recommendations. I have 2 points. I want that if we can elaborate more on the line of credits and the soft loan, because currently we're negotiating few projects in several number of projects about availing credit lines and soft loans that will be at an interest rate less than the central bank initiative.
How much is the interest rate that you are discussing? Sorry to interrupt.
2% less than the central bank initiatives, at
Which
least
is
2%. Around 6% for the mid cap and 3% for the small.
Excellent. This is excellent.
But this is a loan that will be offered to the Egyptian government with special conditions with Italy and EU also. So we need to elaborate more on your recommendations about this soft loans and the credit lines, because it will help us set the conditions much better than we are doing now, especially for the textile sector.
Sure. In our report, we will elaborate more on this.
Yeah. Also, I have a request for the Export Council. If you can share with me the memos about the two new laws, because this will be of great benefit to us in compiling all the studies about the textile sector.
Sure, yeah, Dr. Ahna. We already sent it to the ministry, but I can send you a copy for it. Just
yes.
If you can just send me an email or your contact details, I'll send you a copy.
I don't have on my screen your name, so please, if you can just
Shireen, I'll share with you the email of Dr. Abir.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Ms. Shireen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yasmin.
We have another raised hand from Mr. Mahmoud Rujdi. Please, Mr. Mahmoud.
Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you, Mr. Mahmoud. I have just two comments regarding the recommendations, the governmental recommendations. Number one, with all due respect, I don't think that we need to increase the incentive, the export incentive. Instead of increasing the export incentive, because I know that there are a lot of obstacles. I'm not fully aware, I'm not following that closely, but I know that there is usually problems in taking the export incentives, and there are ways to take it back by the manufacturers, the existing one. So increasing this would increase the problem of getting back. Besides that, as you said earlier, and this is my point of view, that Egypt had been always depending on being a cheaper supplier of ready-made garments and textiles relative to Turkey and Vietnam, etc. So instead of increasing the incentive and giving a chance to continue as a cheaper supplier of ready-made garments and textiles, I would say that one of the recommendations is to put this part of the increase, which we are targeting, as a sort of incentive for investment in feeding industries, rather than giving it to the manufacturers. So in another way, we are helping the manufacturers to have the supply chain all in-house. This is one point. The other point, I would say that in the recommendations...
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to interrupt. Hello? Mr.
Yes,
Mahmoud.
Please.
Sorry to interrupt, but
yes.
You are suggesting that instead of the export incentive increase, the allocated budget should go into helping the manufacturers vertically integrate?
No. Yes, helping manufacturers to vertically integrate.
So this would be a recommendation for the government, or for the banks, or for the business support institutions?
The government will create the atmosphere and the infrastructure for whoever would like to invest in the feeding industries of the ready-made garments and textiles to get in and invest in fabrics, in accessories, etc.
Well, Dr. Abir was just saying that there are new initiatives from the government to give loans at low interest rates. I'm not sure how. What do you mean by? Yes, please.
May I ask
Mahmoud?
two questions? Sorry.
I need just to comment one comment on Mr. Mahmoud Rujdi. Referring to giving more incentives for people or for the feeding industry for enhancing the supply chain of the apparel. Already the last program of the incentive program that was issued. Hello?
Yes.
Mahmoud,
yes, I can hear you, ma'am.
It was based on the
yes.
value addition. So whenever the manufacturer is exporting a product or an apparel who's made of value addition 16 plus, they already take more incentives than others who import the raw material or import their accessories. So
very good.
Okay. Good.
This was the last program that was issued in 2019.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, I didn't know about that. So
I'm just clarifying this point because it's already been taken into consideration. But what I believe in, or what is mentioned in the study, according to Mahmoud's recommendation or the study's recommendation, is that all the factories nowadays, and especially post COVID-19, they have a cash flow problem.
Yes.
Egypt, compared to other countries or competitive countries, for instance, Bangladesh, they are providing their manufacturers and their exporters with a lot of different incentives, schemes, and programs, yes. And they are strongly supporting the manufacturers to overcome the COVID, the pandemic, and to be able to compete more. So I believe, and this has been studied, and there is a comparison study between different countries and the incentive scheme in different countries. So I don't think that we need to, we need the increase. We need to increase the incentives. We need to diversify the types of incentives that the government gives to the manufacturers.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know about that, but say just it's good that to know that. So this is one thing, and thank you, Mrs. Rasha or Shireen. Rasha, to whom I have the pleasure
Shireen. إحنا الاثنين واحد ما فيش مشكلة.
Okay, Shireen. Thank you very much. It's nice to hear you back, to see you back or to hear you back here. The second thing I would like to add is that a recommendation for the government and the policymakers is to give some care to the cotton issue and the cotton file, because this would help in supplying the industry with the fabrics needed for the manufacturing and the exporting. What I mean is that to have the fabrics, the cycle starts from, as far as I know, it starts from the cotton marketing internationally, and what are available for the Egyptian textile industry in the public or the private sector to use in the manufacturing of fabrics. So I think this should be studied by the experts in this regard, so that we can supply the industry with the requested fabrics to compete on the international markets and the local markets. Again, I will use the example of the denims. If we are producing denims suitable for the export market, especially in the US, which is the biggest buyer of denim fabrics, if we have the right denims, we wouldn't import from China or the Hong Kong as we used to do. So, and you can use this example fabrics as well. So
okay,
I
Mr.
think
Mahmoud, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just need to highlight two facts in regards to the supply chain. I'm Rasha. I work for the textile, for the fiber yarns and fabric sector. The thing about you have correctly mentioned what exactly the supply chain needs, but we need to highlight something, that investment size of the yarns or the fabric factory is a very high. It reached like 500 million pounds for one semi-medium factory. So it's a very huge investment because the machinery is very expensive. It's all imported. Yes, we know this very well because the weaving and the spinning machinery are very high price, and it needs a continuous follow-up and maintaining that are costly as well, which requires that the investor, regardless of the nationality, even foreign investors, need to have a scheme into Egypt to help them put such a huge investment in the country. And this, number one, requires a financial tools, an easy one with an interest rate that are fair and competitive to the other countries. That's why it is last couple of years, Ethiopia was a good example for this because they were just giving everything available in their country for the investor, and they have succeeded attracting some investments. It's not continuous stability because of the nature of the country, because they are not stable. They have so many other social disturbance. Unlike Egypt, we are more stable economically, politically, and financially, but we need to work on more incentive for the textile investment because it's a very high one for the yarns and for the fabric as well. Another thing is,
sorry,
another thing is we still have a good capacity for the fabrics, and we still have the good perfect capacity for the yarn, but it's more to export than completing the supply chain locally. And that's not because anything more than the different type. We produce some fabrics which are fine and very fine fabrics exported to Europe, and they make those expensive men's shirts. and the apparel sector, and my colleague Shiri might correct me if I'm wrong, the apparel sector in Egypt usually works for the basic fashion, and they import a different type of fabrics. And it's not related to the uncompleted supply chain. It is because we have several supply chains. The supply chain for men's shirt is different than the supply chain of the t-shirt, is different than the casual pants.
Yes,
So
yes, Raja.
And we also have the nomination thing, Rasha. We need not to forget this.
Can you please
some buyers and brands have nominated supply.
Let me comment, please, on this, Shireen, Rasha. Thank you, Mr. Mahmoud. The thing is, we have gone into a topic that is very wide, and we need to focus a little bit. Because if we are going to talk about cotton, are we talking about long staple cotton for fine counts of yarn, or are we talking about short staple cotton for coarse yarns of yarn that are needed in the export apparel industry? This is number one. Number two, as Rasha said, this is a large, huge investments needed, but I would like also to highlight that the government of Egypt recently is investing $1 billion in new factories of the public sector that are going to produce yarns and fabrics to complement the supply chain. Again, as Shireen last mentioned, the nomination thing, this is especially for the denim factories. Also, the government is making a denim mill in, I believe, the city of Damietta, a denim fabric mill, other than the one owned by DNM. Which make them two large, or maybe now we have 3 large denim mills in Egypt. But again, the denim industry relies on the denomination by buyers, from buyers, denomination from buyers to suppliers, where to buy the fabric. So it's a different scenario. In the end, all of these recommendations are not related to COVID. They are general recommendations, but they are the problems of the industry at large, not only the textile and apparel. We need to deepen our supply chain, or deepen our industry. We need to integrate backwards. These are all facts that most of us know very well, but they are long-term. Net long-term. They are not to take off the COVID impact. So thank you, Mr. Roshdi. Points taken. Thank you, Shireen. Thank you, Rasha. Yasmin, any other questions that I'm not seeing?
No, I think we need to go ahead with the rest of the presentation for the rest of recommendations, because we're like 8 minutes away from 11, and we don't want to be late.
Sure. So those were the recommendations for the government, and we will add to them the banking section, and Mr. Mahmoud will integrate Mr. Mahmoud Rojdi's also recommendations in our report. The next section is the recommendations for the business support organizations. Recommendation number 8, we need technical support and training. We need business support organizations to facilitate and finance the cost of consulting for manufacturers. They need to focus more on facilitating the technical support and making training programs, because a lot of the manufacturers are lacking middle management that are well trained on modern machinery, middle management that are well trained on the modern means of trade and export. Recommendation number 9, which is also for business support organization, is the online readiness and integration. Many of the surveyed companies have shown interest to sell their products online, but maybe they are not, most of them are not online. They don't have, are not online ready. They can't sell online. So they need to know how to make virtual showrooms and virtual sampling, and integrate with the retailers' ERP systems and SAP systems in order to have, so that when the stock goes down, they can the retailers can source or place orders directly. So the online readiness and integration topic needs a lot of support from the business support organizations. Recommendation number 10 is the online selling portals. Also, the support organizations need to facilitate the cooperation of between manufacturers and the B2B business portals for textiles. Instead of relying on regional sourcing offices or local sourcing offices and buyers putting orders through the local sourcing office or the regional sourcing office, we need to find a portal where the manufacturers can display their products virtually and be eligible to get orders online from retailers. Recommendation number 11 would be the capacity building for the existing testing facilities. There is a gap in the testing facilities in Egypt, whether in-house testing facilities or the accredited laboratories that are present in the market. Narrowing the time gap of getting samples approved, whether by having an in-house laboratories in factories, would increase the competitiveness of the manufacturers. Because the time is very short, I will move to the third section, which is the recommendations for the manufacturers. Recommendation number 12, we recommend the manufacturers to implement the digital prototyping. They need to know how to make virtual samples. They need to know how to make digital development of fabrics and send it digitally immediately, because this will shorten the lead time substantially and increase the competitiveness. The recommendation number 13 would be, we recommend factories to focus a bit more on the domestic market if they don't have orders for export. This was valid 2-3 months ago. Now, as we understand that the export orders are coming back. So if the factories can focus a bit more on the domestic market, as they say, put a leg here and a leg there, they can help manage their cash flows during these difficult times. Recommendation number 14 would be to consider switching to medical textiles, whether to produce gowns, medical gowns, to produce medical coveralls, or even masks. This is a valid resolution to the situation of not having enough orders to fill capacity. Recommendation number 15 and the last one would be for the manufacturers to invest in lean manufacturing, to invest on getting trainings and getting advice on how to keep the stocks low, how to work efficiently in a lean mood, so that to reallocate their capital into other areas rather than stock and raw materials. In the end, I would like to thank you all for listening to us, for bearing those 2 hours, and we hope that we have present a good final report that would be beneficial for the industry and the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahmoud. Great effort to appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mahmoud, and thanks for everything and for the communication. It's a very valuable outcome. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for everything, Mr. Mahmoud. Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
أنا بس حابة كمان أقول لو في أي حد عنده أي تعليق أو سؤال أو كومنت، لو تقدروا تتفضلوا تسألونا دلوقتي، علشان حتى إحنا المفروض إنه الفاينل ريبورت بتاع البرزنتيشن أو بتاع الستادي سوري يبقى فاينلايز الفترة اللي جاية ونقدر نبعته لحضراتكم. فبالتالي your valuable comments هتبقى مهمة جدا إن إحنا ناخدها في الاعتبار في إن إحنا نطلع الفاينل ريبورت. فلو في أي حد عنده comment أو addition that you want to add يعني please share it with us. إحنا مش عايزين طبعا ناخد من وقتكم كتير، أنا عارفة إن إحنا خلاص الساعة بقت 11، بس please لو في أي حد عنده comment please share it with us دلوقتي أو حتى بالإيميل later on if possible.
اوكي ممكن اتكلم؟ انا ما رفعتش ايدي سوري، بس ممكن
لا
اتكلم.
اتفضل يا ليمي، اتفضل تقدر تتكلم في اي وقت.
اوكي اتكلم بالانجليزي ولا بالعربي ولا بايه؟
I think ان احنا our يعني my colleagues and my manager from Geneva already left because we have another meeting starting at 11. So I think you can speak in Arabic.
Okay.
I think so.
خلاص اوكي.
Unless حد عنده اعتراض يعني unless someone I'm trying to go through the participant list because we had people from UNIDO that are not speaking Arabic but I think they already left. فلو حد عنده اعتراض على العربي please قولوا لنا.
Okay.
Please go ahead يا
اوكي انا بس very short مداخله. اول حاجه محمود excellent work, thank you very much for the work.
Thank you.
بس حبيت ادخل بحيث احنا في cross road between both our studies. انت بتعمل study على الامباكت اوف كوفيد، وطبعا انا بشفق عليك لانه احنا كاقتصاديين بنقول دايما صعب قوي يعني تشوف امباكت الظاهره وهي حاصله، وكمان
لسه بتتطور، ده بيقولوا في ويف 3
سكند ويف ونشوف الفاكسين هيحصل ايه، فالعمليه شاقه جدا انك تطلع بحاجه فيري كونكلوسيف غصب عنك طبعا. احنا بقى الكروس رود اللي عندنا في الدراسه اللي هو هوبفلي يبقى في ورك شوب قريب احنا نعمل فيها برزنتيشن، هي هنتكلم شويه على الشق المالي اكتر، على ان احنا عايزين ندي فاينانسنج جايد للتكستايل سيكتور. كنا حتى في بعض الكلام بيتقال انه لو رجعنا اتكلمنا على ارض الواقع ورجعنا نلاقي ان في مبادرات كويسه قوي من البنك المركزي لكن مش متفعله بطريقه ما، لان البنوك لسه عندها بشويه صعوبه في هضم الريسك بتاع التكستايل، خاصه لما انت قلت محمود في البدايه ان هو تاني واحد اتاثر في الكوفيد، فاذا كان هو في اصلا البنوك شايفاه انه ريسكي سيكتور، بعد الكوفيد الموضوع يزداد يعني يزداد اكتر. وبالتالي كل اللي عايز اقوله ان في دراستنا احنا بنطلع ايه فاينانسنج جايد، ايه هي المنتجات اللي موجوده للتمويل قدام الناس، نفتح عينهم عليها. اتكلمنا مع المؤسسات الماليه من الناحيه الثانيه ايه اللي مخاوفهم من القطاع، وبالتالي الورك شوب الجايه هتتطرق قوي الى موضوع الفاينانس وكده، فممكن اشيل من عليك شويه عبء السوفت لون والكلام ده واحطه في الدراسه عندنا علشان المفروض في المره الجايه هنعرض الناس مشاكلها ايه، الشركات مشاكلها ايه، في نفس الوقت المؤسسات الماليه شايفه ايه، وايه ايه حاجات التمويل، اليات التمويل الموجوده المختلفه اللي ممكن تبقى موجوده في البلد، مش بس بنوك، في حاجات تانية كتير. وبالتالي ازاي كمان نقرب وجهات النظر، هنجيب سبيكرز من الفاينانسنج يتكلموا مع الناس في القطاع. فطبعا بطلب ان برضو تبقى معانا في الحته دي، وكل الناس الموجودين دلوقتي على الترابيزه يبقوا معانا في الدسكشن دي، وهوفلي تبقى دسكشن مفيده. انا بس حبيت انبه ان في حاجه هتحصل كده، وماليش اي تعليق على دراستك، انا بس بنوه على الموضوع ده والكروس رودز اللي بيننا.
لا تمام 100 بالعكس، انا ابقى مبسوط جدا لو انت هتشيل الحته دي، لان انا نوت ان ايكونومست، انا بتكلم دايما من وجهه نظر المصنعين اللي انا خدتها كفيدباك. انما طبعا الكلام متروك لحضرتك في الشق التمويلي والمالي والمؤسسات الماليه والبنك المركزي والبنوك. انا كل اللي بشوفه حاجات من على الوش، بس بصعوبات بتقابل الناس. انما طبعا لو حضرتك تحب تتكلم عن السكشن ده هتبقى في دراستك باستفاضه، ده هيكون هايل ومكمل للي احنا بنعمله يعني، ونكمل بعض. متشكر جدا.
هو احنا عموما الاجتماع الجاي ان شاء الله اللي لامي كان بينوه عنه هو هيبقى في خلال اسبوعين ان شاء الله. احنا بس بنكونفيرم مع جميع الاطراف علشان نقدر نعلن عن الميعاد very soon. فطبعا محمود وجودك في الاجتماع هيبقى مهم جدا علشان برضو تقدر تدينا الجزء اللي من الدراسة في الدسكشن اللي هتحصل ان شاء الله كمان.
تحت امركم.
ميرسي. طيب هل في حد تاني عنده أي أسئلة أو تعليق قبل ما ننهي الاجتماع؟ أنا متخيلة كده ما حدش رد، يبقى مفيش حد عنده تعليق.
No, I think we're fine, Yasmin, since أنا عرفت إنك هتبعت لنا ال presentation just to have it in mind. otherwise إحنا تمام، وفي workshop تاني فتمام.
بالظبط. أنا هبعت الريكوردينج بتاع الميتنج والبرزنتيشن خلال الأسبوع ده، وأول ما الريبورت الفاينل يكون published طبعا هبعته لكل الحضور النهارده إن شاء الله.
Very good. Thank you very much.
شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you very much ياسمين.
شكرا جزيلا دكتور عبير. شكرا. ميرسي.
شكرا جميعا. شكرا.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye.